Hello everybody, good evening. So I decided for this module I would just go ahead and make a video for my reflection piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump on in. The first question that was posed to us was, what does effective writing instruction for ELs look like in your content area or discipline? So after reflecting on this week's modules, I discovered that there are certain writing instructional strategies that I use in an effective way in my content area, which is English language arts, and some that I have not really tried necessarily with ELs before. In facilitating ELs, writing skills and developments, in that article, it talked about a study that indicated that learners develop better understanding of vocabulary when they get a chance to use vocabulary after reading, rather than just simply being exposed to these new words. So I do try to do that within my classroom. So I try to provide vocabulary that I know students are going to have time to collaborate on and to work on and to find examples of. So an example of this would be if I am to give my students examples of oxymoron, paradox, juxtaposition. If I give them the definitions of those things and give them some examples, but then allow them to research or practice it further, then I feel like that's kind of meeting the same standard that was talked about in that article. Something else that was talked about in facilitating ELs, writing skill developments, was the need for creative writing. So you don't start with creative writing for ELs, but it's definitely a goal for ELs. So once ELs can record an event accurately and with details, according to the text, adults should encourage creative writing. And that is something that I also try to do within my classroom. So an example of that in my classroom would be when I allow students to create poetry. So I think that's important, and I think this kind of goes back to what we've learned in other modules, that good instruction is good instruction regardless if the student is an EL or not. But allowing students to use creative writing really can be an outlet for them, and it can also affect their motivation and their self-esteem, which was an idea that was presented in the Stephen Krashen, I don't know how to say his last name, but in his video clip about language acquisition. Okay, so the second question that we had was, how does what you know about second language acquisition influence the way you teach ELs? So just like what I was stating a second ago, self-esteem is really important in terms of language acquisition. So is motivation. According to Krashen, hopefully I'm saying it right, reconfirming the need for motivation and self-esteem and lowering anxiety. Those are all important for bettering language acquisition. Side note, I thought it was funny how he talked about in his video that grad students should suffer, that there is a need for some anxiety put on students, but not in the case of language acquisition, not in the case for ELs. They should always feel that your classroom is a safe place for them to practice the language. Okay, so something else that he said that I thought was kind of insightful was that the pressure must be off entirely. So if the student is defensive, if he thinks a language class is a place where his weaknesses will be revealed, then a block will go up. So it's important that students feel that they are just practicing. And I think that explains how two children in the same class can have different learning experiences. It just depends on how motivated and how their self-esteem is reflected within the class. So I think that kind of ties in to our second question. Hopefully I didn't go on too much of a tangent with that one. But how does language, so let me go back. How does what you know about second language acquisition influence the way you teach ELs? Okay, so yes, it goes with it. So of course, when you teach ELs, you want to provide them with that safe environment. You want them to feel that there is no boundary between what they are doing, or that there's no weakness in them trying to learn a new language. And I really liked how in the video, the SIOP video, how she talked about students, when teachers provide students with positive aspects of their writing. So you should always provide students with positive feedback. And then over time, for ELs, over time, when you see certain mistakes within their writing, instead of addressing them, criticizing or negatively addressing those mistakes over and over again, that you should create many lessons to address those writing issues. I thought that was very powerful. Then lastly, in our chapter 5 and 6, it just kind of reconfirms what has been said about language acquisition. Lots and lots of strategies to engage students in critical and high-level questioning. That's what was presented in chapter 5. And in chapter 6, just the need for active engagement for ELs within the classroom. So some of those things I feel I do effectively. Some of those things, now that I've seen some more concrete examples, I think I know now how to do those more effectively. But overall, I found the readings and the videos this week very helpful in terms of how I can help ELs within my content area. All right, I think that about covers it. Thank you for watching.